Acolyte, Qimir is the helmeted figure, but that is not the Sith Lord. I think he's just the apprentice. Who it really is might blow your mind. Let's dive into today's Star Wars theory. Who is the Sith Lord in The Acolyte? How many times have we spoken about this question? A lot of fans think the answer is obvious, but with every passing episode of this show, there seems to be more possibilities and more questions. And do we know if the masked mystery Sith is really the Sith Lord, the Master hiding in the shadows, or is it someone else? Are they true Bainite Sith, or are they Abeloth cultists? Well, this video goes off the assumption they are truly Sith, but I don't think the guy in the mask, who I'm 99% sure is Qimir, is the Sith Lord. Remember, Leslye Headland said there is a master, that is the unknown one, the apprentice, and the acolyte. We've only seen the latter two, and above the guy in the mask, there is someone else. So let's not get it confused. The trailers have not shown us what the rumors have alluded to is the true villain we're going to see at the end. And just like most fans who've been watching and following the series, I've had my theories of who it could be, but today I've got a theory that might change your perception of the show, if it ends up being true. And at first, you're going to be confused, but if you watch to the end of this video, I promise you might be on board. And again, I must reiterate, it's just a theory. You've heard me say this a million times, but Leslye Headland has put a lot of emphasis on not trusting the way the show presents itself. In essence, there is a possibility we don't know the essence of what the Acolyte even is till the final episode of the season. The flashbacks we saw in the most recent episode, Episode 3 Destiny, are from one perspective. There is more to come, and there is so much the Jedi are hiding about what took place on Brendok, the truth. And so along these lines, a good friend of the channel, Star Force 1, proposed something very interesting I want to expand on and provide some further thoughts about. The starting point is that the Sith being Qimir is too obvious. As I say, he's Darkseid and probably the guy in the helmet, but not the true villain behind what Mae has been doing. Instead, he thinks it's Master Sol, the former Jedi Master of Osha, and fascinatingly enough, there is a very compelling case when you look at the nitty-gritty which we're gonna do. And I just want to get one thing out the way from the outset. I'm aware the trailer shows Sol fighting the helmeted figure, but this doesn't debunk anything, because if Sol has a Jedi persona and is infiltrating them, he has to play along. And I think about the way Palpatine acted in front of Dooku. To put it simply, when I rewatched the third episode with this in mind, it occurred to me that when Sol discovered Osha and her sister, he used the mission to recruit them as his own personal mission to recruit Osha to the dark side, as his own apprentice, under the guise of training her as a Jedi, infiltrating the Jedi ranks. She was so full of fear in Episode 3, which was a path to the dark side, and Sol knew that. That's why Sol put so much emphasis in her making the choice to join them. So when Osha eventually left, he turned his attention to Mae, which is why he was hoping everyone thought Mae was dead. He knows the truth. We know the fire did not kill the witches. Something else happened. We suspect the Jedi were responsible. And I know there is something shady Sol is hiding. At the end of the episode, after Osha wakes up, Sol tells her about the so-called tragedy, hoping to add fuel to that fear. And it reminds me of how Palpatine tells Vader about the death of Padme after he wakes up in the suit, but is secretly relishing in the pain of his apprentice. More on this in just a moment, but Qimir is definitely too obvious. He's definitely a Sith apprentice, trying to maybe replace the Master, or maybe just another acolyte like Mae, trying to rise the ranks. And this is where I believe we're really being deceived. I wholeheartedly believe whoever the Sith is, it's someone we've already met, somebody the show has already introduced us to. I've explored the possibility of Mother Coral because we never saw her body burn, and there's kind of a parallel to the Phantom Menace. Leslye Headland said she was inspired by Episode 1, and given the fact Mother Coral is a Zabrak, she might be trying to do the female version of Maul. I've also touched upon the idea it could be Mother Anastasia, and there is an I'm your mother moment coming if the flashback was a lie and she lived, and there are even some saying Indara faked her death or survived. This to me is the least likely possibility, and I guess central to all of this is that Mae has never seen the face of her master. something Master Soul suspiciously states. So, if it is someone Mae knew in her past, it's not like she'd know. And now we come on to the compelling case of Master Soul, an atypical Jedi Master who we've likened to Qui-Gon Jinn, but there's a dark twist, and some of his words when analysed don't really seem to add up with the Jedi philosophy. You might be wondering, how could he be a dark side user if he's trying to sway Osha from revenge? She thinks she wants justice, he thinks she wants revenge. He might be duping everyone, but some say Master Soul's fascination with the past and his fear of the dark side are all red flags. As I say, something happened on Brendok he and the other Jedi are ashamed of. More on this in just a bit. There's a comment by Jung-jae that really struck me as strange. He says there is a moment later in the show where Soul's black and white morality is questioned. Is he setting us up to not trust this character? I definitely think Soul is concealing something, and I think about the scene where Jackie walks in when he's looking at a hologram of Osha, and she tells him to stop reflecting on the past. Remember, dwelling on the past is a path to the dark side. And Soul replies, if you don't learn from the past, you're bound to make the same mistakes again, or something like that. And it kind of reminds me of Darth Maul's philosophy, especially in the old comics. Meditating on hate to fuel for future revenge. Meditating on the past, dwelling on it, becoming obsessed. It's not strictly Sith, but that could be one piece of evidence that this has some weight to it. I also think about Leslye Headland saying she was inspired by the EU, and in Legends, there is another character called Soul, coincidentally with very similar traits to the Soul we know, and similarities in their stories. Becoming the thing they swore to destroy, Sol Mogra, Jedi Knight, became so scared of the dark side, he became a serial killer using it. Could this story have been an influence? So how does it go? In George Mann's book, Dark Legends, the author depicted in one of his stories how the repression of the dark side of the Force can be very dangerous for Jedi Knights, those who are almost too afraid of it. Someone, I would say maybe like Sol, but as the Jung-jae said, is a fundamentally emotional character. His master, Nil Idith, was only noble and full of wisdom because he used to suppress his darker emotions and buried them within an amulet. During the night, Idith used to kill people on the lower levels of Coruscant. After he came to the realization he was being overpowered by his dark thoughts, he suppressed his darker emotions in the amulet to stop the killings. But after his death, his amulet was passed down to his apprentice, Sol Mogra, who became the very thing he swore to destroy. After Sol received the amulet, the killings in the city began again, and then, just like in The Acolyte, an investigation into the killings was done by the Jedi, and Sol was put in charge of it, only to find out it was his alter ego killing in the night. Sol came to the horrible realization he himself was doing all the killing. I'm not saying Leslye was inspired by this Sol, and the name could just be to signify light, because that's what it means, but the stories have a lot of overlap. So instead of Sol doing the killings, what if he's got two personas? One Jedi, and his true one as a Sith, and his apprentices are doing the dirty work. And instead of an amulet, was Sol once a Jedi, and years ago on Brendok got possessed by the Witch Mothers, and he is the one who has an alter ego and has Mae as an apprentice, but she doesn't know it's him. That would put an extremely dark twist on the show. And as I say, my dear friends, it's very, very unlikely. If Jung-jae is saying there's a moral dilemma for Master Soul in the series, is this what he's alluding to? But could Master Soul be the bad guy? I don't think any of us would have seen it coming. The past Jedi-Padawan relationship of Soul and Osha is extremely unclear and shady. We don't know what went down, or why Osha left the Jedi Order. Is it possible Soul was not preparing her to become a Jedi, but a Sith? And that's why she exhibits traits of a Sith like revenge. Please take this theory with a pinch of salt, but when I rewatched the show with that framing, there is something very mysterious and off about this character. Jung-jae is a fantastic actor, but there is something more. We need to see the other perspective, Mae's point of view of the flashback on Brendok. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments down below.